Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. My name is Chris, and today we are going to be placing the old train engine shed here in the Lego City. For those of you that missed my review on it, I will put that in the top right for you. I went through and I showed you guys all of the details on it, and what I want to do now is I want to place it here in the city. So let's get started. So we've been doing a lot of work here, especially in this side of the city here. Like you'll see, this area is basically ready for the botanical garden here. I have the town hall here, or part of it at least. I have these open base plates here, along with more open base plates on that back side there. Open base plate here, and then a bunch of open base plates around the back. But the main focus is this side right here, and so you'll see these green base plates here. We added those in a previous video recently, and we also added this road all the way through to the edge of the table. And so now what I need to do is I need to disassemble that entire base plate there. I need to take all of the pieces off of that, and I need to add a train track in with a train crossing, as well as a couple more base plates here to add a curved track that meets up with this right here. Now, this piece of straight track here, those 4 segments, that is where the actual engine shed is going to go. So these 2 base plates are going to leave. We're going to put the engine shed right there. We're going to test fit it, see how it looks, and then we can add the other base plates in, add the other tracks in, and other things like that. And so here it is. As you can see, I'm placing it in the city right now, and I think this would look really, really good here. It is a little bit short. Now that I'm actually kind of looking at it here, it is a little bit shorter than I was expecting it to be, but that's not the end of the world. I don't think that's a deal breaker. I think this is still going to look really, really nice here. And I do know that the tracks here are not the same as the standard tracks here that I use in my city. So I will probably end up changing that, but I think I'm going to do that in its own video, just because I want to kind of keep all of the Bricklink Designer Program stuff in one showcase there, and I'll make a playlist for all of that so you guys can check all of that out to see the review. Now that the shed is here, I want to also add in the train track on this gray base plate here. So we have to do that, and then what we have to do is add those base plates in and the track back there, and then bringing that curve around, and then hopefully that will all look pretty cool. All right, so I went ahead and I added all of the track to this base plate here, and then I just have to go in and add all of these tiles to this right here, because well, for one, I was going to switch the reddish brown ties to black anyways, but my copy of the old train engine shed did not come with a particular bag too, so it was missing all of these pieces in brown along with a bunch of other pieces for the base. So I had to go in and use my own collection to figure that out, but I need to add the black rail ties in here. And I know I just said I was gonna make it its own video about modifying this, but I think we're just gonna do it in this video just for my sanity. We're gonna make it a little bit easier. We're gonna put those base plates in. We're probably gonna rip some of this out, I think, and then we're gonna have the curve track come through here. And then that is pretty much going to be that, I think. So we're going to have to rip up a bunch of this as well. And I do understand that this is off by 2 studs. I do understand that. And then I'm going to have to figure out a way to connect these here. I would rather not use flex track. I know that's an option. I would rather not use flex track. So that is something that I need to figure out. But with that being said, we're going to put those tiles down, and then we are going to move on here. And I might end up actually changing these rails out to the standard tracks, but I haven't decided on that yet. That might actually end up being its own video, because I'm pretty much going to have to gut this from the bottom up and then replace those tracks and then add them back in. But with that being said, for the time being, I'm just going to do this. And then I'm also going to look into Trix Bricks and see what kind of solutions they have. I know they have adapters to go from one to the other, but I don't know if they make a 2-stud S-curve. That's something that I need to look into as well. All right, so I added those black ties in, and I think that actually looks pretty good. And then over here is the original brown ties, and so that is pretty much that. And I have these 2 green base plates here because we are going to rip up this section here and add in the curved track. Now, I do understand that if I put the track how I want it to, and I have the curve start here, and then the RC track would end right about here, and then the straight track would come this way. It's going to be too close to the actual wall of the shed. So what I think I might do is start the curve here and then do one curve segment and then try and get the math to work out that way. I have no idea how that's going to end up looking, but I guess we will try it out and see how it goes. Okay, so a number of things have happened since that last clip, and although it doesn't look like much, this has taken quite a while to get here. I was really stumped on this for the longest time, and so I kind of went back and forth on it a few times, but this is the curve that I ended up going with here. So you can see it actually starts one segment of track up, so instead of having a straight train crossing here, or with a straight track, it's going to have a curve. So the road is going to go over the curved track here. And then there's a second curve, a 4-stud module here, which I will be replacing with like a Trix Bricks 4-stud long straight, but I just needed the flex track to see if the math worked out. So that is a temporary placeholder. And then a third curve, 2 pieces of straight track, and then a 4th curve right here, and then the 2 straights here, and then it'll just keep going. Now, that seems relatively simple, but it took so long to get here for some reason. I don't know why. It was just really confusing me. And then as for the shed itself, this I'm just going to turn into like an abandoned siding here. So I might just rip up this rail here and then kind of blend it in that way. But I'll figure that out. That's not really a problem. With this, though, this is another confusing thing. So I looked on Trix Bricks' website, and they only make 4-stud and 8-stud wide S-curves, whereas I need a 2-stud wide one for this. And so I went through the rest of their website to see what else they had, and they have a 2-stud switch. So instead of the standard switch, which I have here, which has an 8-stud wide gap, if you put a curve there and then you put a straight here, the 2 tracks will be 8 studs apart from each other, which is the standard difference in tracks here. And then, so they have a 2-stud instead of an 8. So then I could use the 2-stud here, and then I can have an S curve along this track somewhere, and then it would line up perfectly with that. That is something that I could do. I haven't fully decided on that yet. I did some other research into different companies, and 4D Bricks, although they don't make products anymore, at least from what I've found online, although they don't make products anymore, they have files that you can download for 3D printing your own tracks, and I have no idea how that works. I don't own a 3D printer, but I think I know somebody that does, so I can maybe look into that. But they make a 24-stud long, 2-stud wide S-curve. So then it would start here, and it would, like right where this seam is here, and then it would be a 24-stud wide S-curve, so it would come to here. And then I would just need an additional 8 studs of straight track to get to this, and then that would be that. And then that could work out perfectly, and I wouldn't even need to change these rails out, because then that would give me 8 studs to get an adapter to go from these types of rails to these types of rails here. So that's another thing that I'm considering, but I have no idea how the 4D Bricks stuff works. I haven't found a video talking about it online, so if you guys are interested in me being the guinea pig and kind of testing it all out, let me know in the comments below what you think of the 4D Bricks stuff. I haven't seen a lot of people talk about it, especially in recent history. The only videos I could find on it were the double crossover switch from like 5 or 6 years ago, and then the monorail track. So neither of which I really need at this point in time. So let me know what you think about that. But with this finally figured out, what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab the base plate that was here. I'm going to strip it down, and then we can put it in and then put the track on, and then that will be all good to go. And then this, I think we're going to detail this in its own video, and we're probably going to save that until once I get that 4-stud wide track in, and then also when we figure this out as well. This is a beautiful model, like I talked about in the review, but it is kind of hard to place in the city because of the different types of rails, and also how it's not perfectly in line with these tracks here. It's not the end of the world. I can make it work, but I don't know how that's going to end up looking. So have a couple different options there between the 4D bricks S-curve that I have to print myself, but it is the 2 studs wide that I need, or the 4 stud wide S-curve and the 2 stud wide switch from Trix Bricks. That is something that I need to look into as well. But with that being said, I'm going to go grab that base plate. I'm going to clean it off and we can ballast those tracks there and make this whole area look just a little bit nicer. Okay, so I went ahead and I ballasted this whole section here. I actually had this straight track here, or these 2 straight tracks here originally, but I ended up swapping them out for the switch track here because I wanted to keep a siding here. I thought that would look pretty good. And so I'm going to add that in because I also want to keep this little pump car with the train shed if I can help it. And so that is what I'm going to do. The entire section of siding here has been removed, but I will be reusing these pieces both with the engine shed as well as elsewhere. And also this buffer design is just genius. So I will most certainly not only be reusing it here, but copying this design for other parts of my city as well. I love that so much. Thank you, Maria, for designing that. That was a fantastic build. But coming back to this, the train tracks here have been put onto the base plate here. And I even have the Orient Express coach here just to kind of show you guys. This does not have any problems going over any point of this whatsoever. So that is really, really nice to see. And over here, I am going to have to make this a curved train crossing, which that video that I did a couple weeks ago was completely not related to this. I did that just because I had a comment asking if I could try it. And I said, yeah, why not? I'll try it out. And then I made that video. And now here I am actually needing to use that. So I guess that came in handy. So I'll put that video in the top right if you haven't seen it yet. I thought it turned out pretty decently well, all things considered. And then, so that is going to go here. And then, so it's 2 curves here, a 4 stud long segment here. This will get replaced with a normal, or like a Trix Bricks 4 stud long segment. I just really don't want to use FlexTrack, but using it now because I need the placeholder for it. And then the 3rd curve here, double long straight here, or the 1 switch, and then the 4th curve, and then the straights here that are just in line with the train station. Now, I think this turned out really, really good. I am extremely happy with this. The train crossing is probably going to end up being its own video, I think, as is modifying the Bricklink Designer Program set here, because also I need to figure out what I'm doing with this. That is where we're going to wrap up the video. I think there's a lot left to do in this area, but we did a lot of progress today, and I'm really, really happy about that. The train shed, like I said, will be its own video, as will the crossing, and then the train station will also be its own video, fixing up this area here, which is really only just taking out this road and extending the platform. So there's not a whole lot of work to do, but I want to dedicate its own videos to them because I feel like they deserve it. And so on that note, that is going to wrap up today's video. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you liked what I did, make sure to like the video and subscribe, as well as click the bell notification so you don't miss any future uploads, like fixing up all of these areas around this corner of the city here. If you guys have any feedback for me on what I should do with this section right here, how I should connect the train tracks from the engine shed to the standard RC tracks here, let me know in the comments down below. The 2 options, like I said, are the 4D bricks, 2 stud wide S-curve to go from there to here, and then that gives me 8 studs of length to get an adapter, and then other straight track segments as needed. Or option number 2 is to get the 4 stud wide S-curve to bring it in closer to this line here, and then a 2 stud wide switch, both from Trix Bricks. So let me know what you think about that. But once again, seriously, thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope to see you next time. Bye for now.